Wednesday, the 21st of February 2024 at Protestia Studios, and this is your intelligence briefing coming to you from Protestia and other trusted discernment and polemics resources online. Thank you so much for tuning in. This program brought to you by our wonderful patron supporters who for only $5.95 a month and up support this program and all other Protestia content on a financial level. You can do so by going over to patreon.com/Protestia and signing up with us and get your ad-free browsing at protestia.com. Let's get into the headlines. At protestia.com, first headline, nation's, quote, most hated abortion clinic opens up killing babies up to 34 weeks of gestation. This is in New York. A recent New Yorker article, A Safe Haven for Late Abortions, chronicles the day in the life of Partners in Abortion Care, an all-trimester abortion clinic in College Park, Maryland. So it's not in New York, it is in Maryland. Many describe it as the most hated abortion clinic in the nation, and we can see why, of course. Founded in October 2023 by abortionists Diane Horvath and Morgan Nuzzo, they've seen nearly 500 patients since they opened, specializing in late-term abortions up to 34 weeks or between 7.5 and 8 months. This one hits particularly hard with me because my eldest son was actually born at 26 weeks of gestation. So these murderers, and that's what they are, murderers, would have killed my son, or at least been okay with my son being murdered in the womb. Because protesters frequently target the abortuary, the building has been altered to include panic buttons, heavy doors, cameras everywhere, and shatterproof windows. The clinic destroys the myth that abortion up to birth isn't a thing. While the clinic has limited abortions to 34 weeks, many women come in seeking to kill their babies who have progressed beyond that and are turned away. And Nuzzo, one of these murderous abortionists, laments that turning these people away is one of the worst parts of our jobs. In other words, we would like to help them kill their children, and we have to turn them away, apparently. You can read more about this at protestia.com, but safe to say this is one of the most evil places in the country at this point, and may God have mercy on their souls and bring them to repentance. Next headline at Protestia. Lutheran preacher says drag queen story hour is an example of LGBTQ folk being good Samaritans to children. Lutheran Church of the Cross, a Canadian congregation that affirms and celebrates human diversity, is what they say, led by Lyndon Sayers and Lyle McKenzie. They are an ELCIC, Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada congregation, the Canuck version of the ELCA, populated by senior citizens, lesbians, and a host of other ragtag goatlings. We covered them after a recent sermon argued that the baby Moses' trip in a basket on the Nile River has some queer themes and is actually about kinship outside of heteronormative family structures, as well as a metaphor for the turbulence that trans folk experience at the hands of the church. If it wasn't so horrifying in its twisting of scripture, it would be pretty darn humorous, I would say. You can read more about this at protestia.com, but under the headline, Lutheran preacher says DQSH, Drag Queen Story Hour, is an example of good Samaritanism with the children that it abuses. Next headline, Rob Reiner's God and Country, The Rise of Christian Nationalism bombs spectacularly at the box office. I will see this movie eventually so that you don't have to. I mean, feel free, I guess, if you want to I would assume pick the low-hanging fruit of discernment, but safe to say that Rob Reiner's stupid movie, which features evangelical quote-unquote stalwarts like Russell Moore and Kristen Kobe Dumais and David French and VeggieTales Phil Vischer and all of that, will wind up being nothing more than something we keep on record in case anybody forgets who these characters are. It looks like the opening weekend here, the domestic gross was, I don't know, about the price of a new Kia. So not good. In fact, terrible. We're talking 3 to 5 people per showing on average. It opened in 85 theaters and made $451 a theater over all 4 days. Assuming it had at least one showing each day, likely had several, it brought in around $112 a day, 10 people a day, spread across however many showings. It also had Sky Jatani, Jamar Tisby featured in there, William Barber, those kind of folks. Even this reviewer from Matt Seitz from RogerEbert.com reviewed his summary, said, in the end, however, the unpleasant truth is that there's not a lot to see here that you can absorb by going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole or watching The Daily Show or Last Week Tonight or Rachel Maddow. So good on these supposed Christians on here for participating in such an absolute joke and nightmare that, we're going to keep in the files and bring out when we need to remind folks who these people really are. Next headline at Protestia: Brian Simmons releases new edition of his nutty Passion Bible translation. This is Brian Simmons of Bethel fame and his quote-unquote Bible translation, which is really nothing more than a fever dream of his own imagination. Something like 150% longer than the actual Bible, because he just sort of put stuff in there he wanted to put in there and made up things and kind of made it something that he wanted it to be rather than what the Bible should actually be. So he has released a new book of his Passion translation, recently adding Jeremiah and Lamentations to the list. Here's one translation of Jeremiah's most taken out of context verse, and Simmons does not disappoint. We've all heard this one. It is on many T-shirts. It is on, posters. It is on, it's some people's quote unquote life verse. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for prosperity and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope. And Brian Simmons rewrote it to say, here's what Yahweh says to you. I know all about the marvelous destiny I have in store for you, a future planned out in detail. I have no intention to harm you, but to surround you with peace and prosperity, to give you a beautiful future glistening with hope. Yes, glistening with hope is how he decided to put that in there. It's good news for Simmons, I guess, that this has come out, because he was recently, his Passion translation was recently dropped from BibleGateway.com, lost the endorsement of Michael W. Smith. Why it ever had Michael W. Smith's endorsement, I will let you ask him, resulting in Simmons playing the victim and claiming he's been torched by cancel culture. The quote-unquote translation might as well have been called the New Apostolic Reformation translation, given that it's pretty much exclusively endorsed by NAR folk from Bethel, Bobby Houston, James Gall, John and Lisa Bevery. Is it Bevery? I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Patricia King, Chuck Pierce, and is infused with their special kind of theology. We put in the article down here an embedded YouTube video where featuring Brian Simmons and talking about heavenly visitation and John 22 from the kooky Brian Simmons perspective, which you can check out over at protestia.com. Next headline: Abolitionist Rising becomes most viewed anti-abortion channel on YouTube, besting major pro-life organizations. Of Abolitionist Rising now climbing north of 213, almost 214 million views on their YouTube channel, and even live action, which does really good work in terms of the science and things behind abortion, I would argue. However, as far as I know, they are part of the pro-life industry, the pro-life movement, which has steadfastly been stubborn against actually providing equal protection for the unborn by providing equal punishment for those who murder the unborn. Abolitionist Rising has become the most anti-abortion channel on YouTube, amassing over 214 million views, the bulk of them coming in the last 10 months. The increased success follows their successful rebrand from Free the States to Abolitionist Rising, a move they took as they underwent a new mission following the overturn of Roe v. Wade. You can read more about this at Protestia. Of course, this is in contrast To second place, Live Action, the most media-savvy pro-life organization, which also has the benefit of being beloved by conservative media and supported by major pro-life organizations, the same organizations who wouldn't give Abolitionist Rising a cup of water if they were dying in the desert, much less an ounce of positive press, platform, or publicity. So it is good to see Abolitionist Rising seeing this kind of an increase, because abolitionism really is the only morally consistent biblical position on abortion. It is the position that does not cave to feminism, cave to unequal weights and measures, cave to partiality and favoritism among the differences between men and women as far as their roles and responsibilities in an abortion. Check out more over at protestia.com. Last headline for this intelligence briefing. Oh, of course, we couldn't do an intelligence briefing without some of this kind of stuff, could we? Church hosts queer nativity play featuring Mary and Joseph as to, what else? Catfighting lesbians, a Lutheran church in Canada, another Lutheran church in Canada. We're on a roll, I guess, in the Great White North for this intelligence briefing. They hold the distinction now of putting on the world's worst nativity play after they put on a show featuring Mary and Joseph as two unlikable and nattering lesbians catfighting the entire time. I think this is the same church we talked about, Lutheran Church of the Cross. Let's take a look at this and see how much of this we can stomach.
No vacancy?
Let me try somewhere else. I'm not giving up now.
What, you have something on that handy-dandy carabiner belt that'll help? God, why didn't we stay home?
Mary, you're being a dead horse.
I still don't think we should have come for the census.
It would have been more dangerous if we hadn't.
More dangerous than being stranded in the middle of nowhere?
There is something really unique and special about off the left end liberal progressive mainline churches and their love affair with terrible theater. It's just more of that, it seems. Let's keep watching.
There, it's 3 a.m.
We're not stranded.
I'm the pregnant one here. It's my life on the line.
It's not just... Ow, what the...
God damn it.
That's what they say in a church. Apologies, by the way, for the language of this. I probably should have seen it coming from the headline, but yeah, that's a pretty horrifying thing to say.
Turned into an angel. And he spoke to me in my mind. He told me, be not afraid, which didn't help much. And then I was pregnant.
I see.
I didn't tell Jo at first. I waited. When I did tell her, she didn't believe me. All she could ask was, what did you and the angel talk about? And what time did he arrive? And was he a very attractive angel? And I was like, I didn't really have time to check if the angel was attractive. It was an angel.
What in the world are they? This is. I'm not sure it could get much worse, but we'll keep going. Just a few.
Would you believe someone if they told you they had been divinely impregnated?
No.
We had agreed to be monogamous. I thought we were both happy, and then suddenly Mary's pregnant. I mean, obviously, kid's not mine.
It's strange, having the Messiah inside you. I don't think it feels any different than any other baby. I don't know. It's my first. Although, sometimes it makes me feel meaningless, like I'm just a vessel, a means to an end, as if my life is just something to endure so that future generations can be born.
So, like, just take a swipe at motherhood generally. You know, is that not a nice summary of feminism? Thinking, oh, the things that God calls women to do are they're such an imposition. I mean, what about my life? What about what I want to do? What about this and that and the other things that I want to do as an empowered woman, and then to think that I have to carry this child and I have to be responsible for it in some way?
How are you doing?
Well, my body feels like it's being split open. I'm cold, my clothes are soaked through, and I haven't eaten today, but other than that, I'm dandy.
Here, have the last granola bar.
I don't want a granola bar. Please, just let me be.
Why won't you let me help you?
All right, go see the rest of this over at Protestia's X account or from the article here at protestia.com. That's about all I can stomach. Perhaps you have a stronger constitution than me for this kind of stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the Intelligence Briefing for the 21st, Wednesday the 21st of February 2024. Stay tuned to protestia.com for all of your latest in Christian polemics and discernment news and the latest insane evangelical Lutheran videos coming straight to you via our webpage. We'll talk to you again real soon. As always, Semper Reformanda.